I adjusted my understated Chanel suit, deliberately chosen to look like a department store knockoff, as I approached the massive oak doors of Blackwood Industries' main boardroom. 5 years of careful planning had led to this moment, and I wasn't about to let my estranged family ruin it. "I'm here for the board meeting," I told the security guard, who glanced uncertainly between me and his list. Before he could respond, my brother James emerged from the boardroom, his custom Tom Ford suit practically gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "What are you doing here, Sarah?" "I'm here for the meeting," I repeated, watching his face contort with the same condescension I'd endured since our father's death. "Family only," he smirked, starting to close the door. "You gave up that right when you sold your shares, remember?" Actually, I'd never sold my shares. I just let them think I had, while quietly building my position through shell companies and proxy investors. Today they'd learn exactly how wrong they were. "Mr. Harrison is expecting me," I said quietly, naming the CEO who'd been secretly working with me for months. James laughed. "Timothy? Please. He doesn't meet with small-time investors." Just then, Timothy Harrison himself appeared in the doorway. "Sarah, we've been waiting for you." The look on James's face was priceless. Inside the boardroom, my sister Victoria and stepmother Eleanor sat at the massive conference table, along with the other board members. Their expressions ranged from confused to annoyed at my presence. "What is she doing here?" Eleanor demanded, her voice sharp with disapproval. "This is a private board meeting." "About that," Timothy said, standing at the head of the table. "We have some matters to discuss regarding company ownership." Victoria rolled her eyes. "We know all about ownership. Sarah sold her shares years ago, after that embarrassing attempt to modernize the company." I thought back to that day when they'd laughed at my proposals for digital transformation and sustainable energy investment. They'd called me naive, idealistic, out of touch with reality. Now Blackwood Industries was losing market share to more innovative competitors, exactly as I'd predicted. "Actually," Timothy continued, "Ms. Blackwood never sold her shares. In fact, she's been increasing her position through various investment vehicles." The room grew quiet as he pulled up a PowerPoint presentation. On the screen, a complex ownership diagram appeared, showing dozens of shell companies and investment funds all leading back to one entity, SB Holdings. "What is this?" James demanded. "This," Timothy gestured to the screen, "is the current ownership structure of Blackwood Industries. And SB Holdings, which now controls 51% of outstanding shares, belongs to Sarah." The silence that filled the room was deafening. "That's impossible," Eleanor whispered. "She couldn't afford. She doesn't have the resources. Remember that sustainable energy fund you all mocked?" I finally spoke, my voice calm. "The one you said would never succeed. It's now worth $8.2 billion. And I used every penny of profit to buy back my father's company." Victoria's perfectly manicured hands trembled as she grabbed her tablet, presumably checking the numbers. But you live in that tiny apartment. You drive a Honda." "Because success isn't about showing off wealth," I replied. "It's about building something meaningful. Something our father would have been proud of." James stood up, his face red. "This is ridiculous. The board won't stand for this." "The board," Timothy interrupted, "has already been briefed. Sarah's acquisition was completely legal, and her voting rights are immediately effective." I pulled out a folder containing my proposals, the same ones they'd laughed at 5 years ago. "Now, shall we discuss the future of Blackwood Industries? I have some ideas about digital transformation." Eleanor's face had turned an interesting shade of pale. "You can't do this. We're family." "Family." I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. "Like when you changed the locks on our family home the day after Dad's funeral. When you told everyone I'd had a mental breakdown because I disagreed with your management style. That kind of family." The boardroom erupted in chaos. James was frantically calling his lawyers, Victoria was on the verge of tears, and Eleanor sat frozen, her carefully maintained composure cracking. "The voting records," Timothy continued, seemingly enjoying the drama, "show that SB Holdings has been steadily acquiring shares for the past 5 years. All perfectly legal, all properly registered." I pulled up another slide on the screen, showing Blackwood Industries' declining performance metrics. "While you were busy maintaining your country club memberships and corporate jets, Our company lost 40% of its market share to more innovative competitors. Our company? Victoria spat. You abandoned us. Ran off to play with your green energy projects while we maintained father's legacy. I clicked to the next slide, a photo of our father in his early days, standing in front of the company's first solar panel installation. You mean this legacy? The one where Dad believed in sustainable energy long before it was trendy? The legacy you dismantled because oil and gas were more profitable. James's lawyer finally called back and his face fell as he listened to the response. But there must be something we can do, he shouted into the phone. There isn't, I said quietly. Every acquisition was legal, every share purchase documented. While you were watching my tiny apartment in Honda Civic, you missed the billions I was investing in your company. Eleanor finally found her voice. The board will never accept this. We have relationships, connections. You mean the board members who've watched their stock options decline by 60% under your leadership? I gestured to the uncomfortable executives around the table. The ones who've seen their competitors embrace clean energy while we cling to dying technologies. Timothy cleared his throat. The board has already voted to support Ms. Blackwood's leadership transition plan. Victoria's mascara was running now. Leadership transition? Effective immediately, I continued. I'm assuming the role of executive chairperson. Timothy will remain as CEO, implementing our new strategic direction. But my position? James sputtered. Your position as Chief Strategy Officer? The one where you've consistently opposed sustainable technology investment? That position is being eliminated. The color drained from his face. You can't fire me. I'm a Blackwood. So am I reminded him. The daughter you all dismissed as naive and idealistic. The sister you locked out of board meetings. The family member you tried to erase. I clicked to another slide showing my green energy fund's performance against Blackwood's stock price. The contrast was stark, my fund soaring while our family company declined. 5 years ago you laughed when I proposed investing in renewable energy. Called it a tree hugger's fantasy. Well, that fantasy built a billion-dollar fund that just bought your controlling interest. Eleanor tried a different approach. Darling, surely we can discuss this as a family. Your father would have wanted dash. Dad would have wanted? I cut her off. Let's talk about what Dad wanted. Let's talk about his last letter to me, the one you tried to hide. I pulled out a worn envelope, my father's final message, found in his desk after Eleanor had cleared out his office. In it, he'd expressed his hope that I would someday lead Blackwood Industries toward a sustainable future. He knew, I said softly. He knew you would resist change, cling to the past, choose profit over progress. That's why he left me an equal share of the company. He wanted balance between tradition and innovation. But you sold those shares, Victoria insisted weakly. No, I let you think I sold them. Then I watched as you drove the company's value down, making each additional purchase more affordable. Basic business strategy, something you might have learned if you'd spent more time in board meetings and less time at charity galas. I opened my laptop, displaying Blackwood Industries' new organizational chart. The company is being restructured effective immediately. Our focus will shift to sustainable energy, clean technology, and digital transformation. You'll destroy everything we've built, James protested. You mean everything you've dismantled, I corrected him. Our stock price has fallen 60% since Dad died. Our market share is evaporating. Our best engineers are leaving for more innovative competitors. Timothy distributed folders to each board member. These documents outline our 5-year transformation plan. Ms. Blackwood has already secured $4 billion in green energy contracts. Victoria flipped through the papers frantically. These projects, they're massive. The Saudi Solar Initiative, the European wind farms. All secured through my fund's connections, I nodded. While you were watching my Honda Civic, I was building partnerships with some of the largest renewable energy investors in the world. Eleanor's hands trembled as she read the numbers. These profit projections are conservative, Timothy interjected. Based on current market trends, we expect the actual returns to be significantly higher. I clicked to the next slide showing my father's original vision for the company. Dad started Blackwood Industries with a dream of transforming the energy sector. He invested in solar when everyone said it was foolish. built wind farms when competitors mocked him. But somewhere along the way you lost sight of that vision. We were protecting the company, James argued. Oil and gas were profitable. We're profitable, I emphasized. But the world is changing. And thanks to your short-sightedness, we're playing catch-up to companies that embraced that change years ago. I pulled up another screen showing my green energy fund's major projects. Massive solar installations, cutting-edge battery technology, revolutionary wind turbine designs. Everything you mocked me for? It's now worth billions. Every tree-hugger fantasy you dismissed? It's the future of energy. And now it's the future of Blackwood Industries. Victoria dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. What happens to us? That depends, I replied coolly. Those willing to embrace our new direction can stay in revised roles. Those who aren't, well, your severance packages are outlined on page 12. James laughed bitterly. You really think you can run this company? You with your environmental crusades and sustainability dreams. I pressed a button and the wall screens came alive with live feeds from my fund's projects around the world. Solar fields stretching to the horizon. Wind farms powering entire cities. Battery installations revolutionizing power grids. I already run something bigger, I said quietly. My crusades and dreams built a fund worth 3 times what Blackwood is worth today. The only difference is now I'm bringing that success home. Eleanor tried one last time. The shareholders won't stand for this. The old families, the traditional investors, have already pledged their support, Timothy interrupted. They've seen the numbers. They know where the future lies. And they're tired of watching their investments decline while the rest of the sector embraces clean energy. I stood up, walking to the window overlooking the city where Blackwood Industries had started decades ago. Dad used to stand here pointing out places where he imagined solar panels would power entire neighborhoods. You called him a dreamer then too. But he built this company on those dreams. Turning back to the room, I continued, 5 years ago you locked me out of this boardroom because I shared his vision. Called me naive for believing in renewable energy. Mocked me for living modestly while building something meaningful. My phone buzzed. News of the ownership change had leaked. Blackwood stock was already up 12% in pre-market trading. Your choice is simple, I addressed my family. Adapt to our new direction or take your severance. Either way, Blackwood Industries returns to its original mission today. James stood up, straightening his expensive tie. You'll regret this. You have no idea how to manage relationships with our traditional partners. You mean the oil companies that are themselves investing billions in renewable energy? The industrial clients demanding clean power solutions? Those traditional partners. I clicked through slides showing signed contracts with major corporations, all committed to transitioning to renewable energy. While you were protecting the past, I was building the future. While you were watching my modest lifestyle, I was making partnerships that will transform this company. And while you were mocking my dreams, I was turning them into reality. Victoria gathered her things, her hands shaking. What will people say? At the club, in our circles. They'll say what they always say, I replied. That success proves itself. That vision matters more than tradition. That sometimes the person you lock out of the boardroom ends up owning it. Over the next few hours, the implications of my takeover became clear. James and Victoria cleaned out their offices, their severance packages worth far less than their annual bonuses. Eleanor retreated to her country club, where she'd have to explain how her dismissed stepdaughter now controlled the family empire. Timothy and I worked late into the night finalizing the transformation plans. Blackwood stock closed up 23% on news of our renewable energy initiatives. Analysts were already calling it the green revolution in energy. 1 year later, I stood in that same boardroom watching as we announced another record quarter. Our solar projects were generating twice the projected revenue. Our wind farms were powering millions of homes. Our battery technology was revolutionizing energy storage. The wall screens showed our global operations, everything I'd dreamed of when I first proposed these changes. The Honda Civic still sat in my parking space, a reminder that true success isn't about displaying wealth, but about building something meaningful. James occasionally appeared on business news shows, criticizing our direction, but the numbers spoke for themselves. Blackwood stock had tripled. Our market share in renewable energy was growing exponentially. We were becoming exactly what Dad had always envisioned. I keep the boardroom door key on my desk now, a reminder of the day they locked me out. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong. It's proving your father right. And sometimes the person they dismiss as a dreamer becomes the one who owns their dreams. As I wrapped up another successful board meeting, my assistant brought in the latest industry reports. Ms. Blackwood, Forbes wants to do a cover story on our Saudi solar project. And your brother James is on CNBC again, criticizing our strategy. I smiled, pulling up the network feed. There was James, still wearing his expensive suits, claiming Blackwood Industries had lost its way under my leadership. And how's our stock price doing today? I asked. Up another 4% after the clean energy bill passed. We're now the largest renewable energy provider in 3 continents. The transformation of Blackwood Industries had become a business school case study. How a naive environmentalist had turned a declining oil and gas company into a clean energy powerhouse. How the daughter they'd locked out had revolutionized an entire industry. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. The country club is hosting an energy innovation panel. Would you consider speaking? For family's sake. Family saw. The same excuse they'd used when they'd pushed me out. When they'd mocked my vision. When they'd chosen short-term profits over long-term sustainability. I typed back, sorry, busy installing solar panels that day. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd claimed I was destroying our father's legacy, but our latest projects were exactly what he'd envisioned. The massive solar fields in Saudi Arabia, the floating wind farms off the European coast, the revolutionary battery storage systems, all originally sketched in his old notebooks. Eleanor had tried to destroy those notebooks after his death, claiming they were embarrassing dreams. Now they were framed in our company museum, alongside photos of our completed projects. Miss Blackwood. Timothy knocked on my office door. The Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds are here. They want to double their investment in our renewable projects. I straightened my simple blazer, still shopping at regular stores despite my billions. Success wasn't about impressing others, it was about proving your vision right. Tell them about Dad's original solar designs, I said, gathering my papers. Show them how we've built something even bigger than he imagined.